awesome and amazing. And here we are. That actually doesn't look too bad, right? That looks pretty good. I can see you. So at least on one of these streams,
we can see each other. It's perfect.
We can see each other and everyone else can see us too, which is nice. And the other thing that's kind of cool about this is that I can post comments. So if you're watching, feel free to ask questions. All right. And then that way, when people ask questions, I can respond to those questions. Right. So that's kind of cool.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I got to go back and find my song that we're going to start with, which is that one. Darn it. Where did it go? All right. I'm going to have to shut this down. All the things to have to remember.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, especially when I'm doing this myself.
Oh.
Like if I had a group of folks, you know,
like
somebody.
A whole crew.
Yes. If I had a crew,
Yep.
one of these days I'll have a crew and it'll be all cool. And who knows? We're hopefully going to get there. Okay, so I'm going to zoom that back. All right, so this is going to seem a little weird. I'm going to, like I said, we're live, so everybody is seeing all of this warts and all. But Dawn Darling, mental health therapist, right?
Yes.
Yep. In Hastings.
In Kearney.
Oh, in Kearney. Yep. Which is close to here, right?
It is. It's 50 miles away.
Mental health therapist. And how long have you been an open and affirming therapist?
Since 2014, when I started my started with private practice.
Alrighty, beautiful. Since 2014. Tell me, what do you do for fun?
Just by myself?
Just for fun.
Okay, I love that. The things I do for fun. Well, first of all, I love running. So I do a lot of running and working out in general. I also love watching baseball. The Astros are my team. So there's that. I like to hang out in my yard with my cat, whose name is Astro. And let's see, what else do I enjoy doing? I really like to come to these Pride events, and I started a group, transgender and gender diverse support group called Chameleons. So I join with Chameleons, and we have meetings and we have events and we come to these events, and so I really enjoy doing all of that kind of stuff too.
All right, I'm gonna misspell Chameleons, I think. All right. Okay, so this is going to seem really bizarre.
Okay.
But now I'm going to start the recording for the podcast, which is completely separate. So everybody is seeing all of this warts and all because we're live. Yes. It's totally fine. I love it. But now we're going to start the recording and do all of that. And then I'm going to say a few of these things.
Okay.
And then we'll start the interview.
Okay.
Okay. And just quickly, so do you identify as someone who is LGBTQIA2S+?
Yes, I actually do.
Okay. Oh. It's okay. It's all right. It's okay. It's all good. It's perfect. All right. So I'm going to get this going. I'm going to start this recording. And all right, we are here with interviewee number, where are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4 here at the Hastings Pride Festival, which actually is ending here shortly. I do believe it's ending at 6 o'clock. It seems like it went by so quickly. But just so grateful to be here today and having the conversations that I've had with TJ and Sophia and Danielle. My final guest on the podcast today is Dawn Darling. Dawn is a mental health therapist here in Kearney, Nebraska. She's a fan of Speaking of Happy and supports our Patreon page, which is amazing because you help make a lot of the things that I do possible. So thank you so much for that. She has been serving the LGBTQIA2S+ community since 2014. She loves to run and work out. She's an Astros fan, such a big fan. She has a cat named Astro that she loves to hang out in her yard with. She also loves to come to Pride events and started a transgender support group called chameleons, which we actually heard a little bit about earlier today from some of the folks that joined us here on the show. So, Dawn, thank you so much for jumping over and saying that you wanted to do an interview with me today.
Absolutely.
So, thank you so
for
much.
gracing me with allowing me to come speak.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's like the door is open and I love to talk.
Okay, well, perfect.
So that's probably being a mental health therapist would probably not be a good job for me.
Right. I love to listen. So this is hard for me, but we're doing it.
Hey, you know what? I love it when people challenge themselves. It's a beautiful thing to like do something that's out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you.
I mean, if I'm telling my clients to kind of put themselves out there and challenge themselves, I should probably do it too. Don't you think? Yeah,
because then you can kind of speak to their experience and
sure.
be able to relate and maybe have more empathy.
Yes, all the good things.
I love all those things, Dawn. So thank you so much. So share with me a little bit. I was asking you, we were already live on the live stream, but now we're actually recording. Can you tell me, how do you identify yourself, Dawn?
I identify as bigender. I use pronouns she and he, whichever is fine with me. And I've been doing a little bit of work on my sexual orientation, but I believe right now I am going with aropansexual.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about what that means?
What that means is the pansexual part is I'm attracted to whatever your gender is. I don't care. But the arrow means that I'm more attracted to the masculine physique.
Okay.
Yeah. So there we go.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
You made that so easy.
Simple enough.
Right? I mean, one of the things that we hear a lot by those folks who stand outside of the community and love to be judgmental is that, how am I going to explain this to my kids? And they act like it's such a big deal. But I think, there's so many intersections as to why we've gotten to where we are. Mm-hmm. Part of that, I think, has to do, well, I'm not going to say part. A lot of it has to do with religion. Especially, and I want to be very clear, because there are some open and affirming religions, but your evangelical, right-wing kind of fundamentalist religions, Christian, Catholic, right? Yeah. Those are a little harder when it comes to our community. But I think that they're also hard when it just comes to talking about sex.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
Which is so confusing to me, because it's like, it's a natural act.
Yeah, I think they put a lot of barriers around that and chained people up. And I guess to me, I mean, I grew up in a very conservative religious home. And to me, it feels like a lot of it's about power and control over people and putting people under your thumb, and so they want to put people in nice little boxes and make them stay there and don't talk about things, don't explore things. I know growing up in the church, I was never really encouraged or allowed to question my religious beliefs or learn about other religions or any of those things. And so I think there's a lot of fear involved too. And so that just makes them want to avoid everything.
Yeah.
Which
just is, I get it because I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
And so there were a lot of things that I just remember when I was pretty young, one of my sister, who's a year and a half younger than me, we were all sitting at the dinner table one night and she asked my mom what a faggot was.
Okay.
And my mom said, it's a cigarette.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm scratching my head. And my sister says, well, then why are they calling Johnny that at school? And my mom says, okay, sometimes boys like boys and girls like girls, but we don't talk about this in this house. And I just remember sitting there like a knife had gone right directly through my heart, because I knew that I was something other than, and I didn't have any of this language, but something other than a straight person attracted to the sex opposite of the sex I was assigned at birth.
Right.
Again, I didn't have any of that language, but the more that I gain that language, the more that I start to understand myself better. And why wouldn't anybody want to be able to understand that language and be able to understand themselves better? It's it baffles me. And I feel like there are so many people out there that are hurting and angry and frustrated and sad because they're in those boxes that you referred to.
Absolutely. And then they want to put everyone else in those boxes, and like struggle wants more struggle to happen. Like, it doesn't make sense to me either, but it can be very harmful for people. I mean, I didn't start exploring my gender identity. Like, I've always known that I identified like I was a boy, I was a tomboy my whole life until I started having kids. And then I kind of just decided, I guess I'm having kids, I must be a girl, you know? And so I just accepted that. And, but once I started working with the trans community and really learning about different gender identities, I'm like, wow, this whole world's opened up to me. And I'm like, I don't have to just identify with the sex assigned at birth. I can explore all these different identities and really figure out who I actually am.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So can you tell me, what does pride mean to you? I think this is a good piggyback onto that.
Absolutely. Pride to me means freedom and community. Pride is a beautiful, it's so energizing. It's a beautiful time for people to just come together. You know, when we are in our houses, we're in our lives, in our towns and stuff, we just feel so isolated sometimes. And we think I'm the only one with these experiences, and that's just how it is, and I should just go hide. But we come to festivals like this and Pride like this. We see somebody with a rainbow across the room at a store or something, and it's just so exciting because there's community there. You know, that's a safe person. And that is sometimes a matter of life and death.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Which, so tell me, how did you start to get into in your practice seeing folks who identify as LGBTQIA2S+?
Well, when I immediately, when I graduated from college with my master's degree, I went into private practice, and I just did a Psychology Today profile, and because you have to start from scratch and build your own clientele. So I put on there that I took LGBTQIA plus people, and I got my first transgender client later that year. And as I started working with them, and then a couple, I think they came just to check me out and see if I was safe, which is fair.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really know what I was doing, honestly, but
Sure.
I knew that I cared about people, and I wanted to be affirming for whatever, wherever anyone was.
Yeah.
And I knew that there weren't other therapists working with this population in Kearney. And so we
Or
started
Hastings
working.
even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the whole Tri-City area. And so we started working, and I thought, wow, we need resources. Everybody I was working with was going to Omaha or Lincoln for mental health care or for medical care.
Yeah.
And that is a drive, and that it can be really difficult for people that don't maybe have reliable transportation or finances. And so I decided, I mean, I have my social work degree. So as a good social worker, I'm like, let's do this. Let's find resources in our area. And so that's kind of what propelled me into it. And then I started reading tons of research articles and books and gaining education for myself so that I could do service to this population.
So let me ask you this then. Some of the books and whatnot that you read, would they benefit not only folks who are therapists or wanting to be therapists, but actually the general community as a whole? And what would you say is your like top 2 books that you read in gaining a better understanding about the community?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember. That's a really hard question.
I put you in the hot seat. Yeah. Remember though, I did say if there's any question that you don't want to answer.
Gosh, I just keep reading and reading and reading. And so I really can't, I don't even know, but I know that as I have progressed, like there was a lot of scholarly journal articles that I read, and there wasn't that much information in 2014. It was actually hard to find resources, but I also looked at the Trevor Project and Gender Spectrum and Trans Lifeline and all those online sources. And those were some of the best sources I could have found. They have tons of really good information. It's basic. It's readable for me
For anybody. Yeah.
for anybody. And so those resources were just fantastic. And then I started reading like how to do it yourself workbooks and stuff for people who couldn't afford to go to a therapist. And so those kind of helps walk through how to figure out what your gender identity is and things like that.
Oh, wow.
Dara Hoff has a really great book out about figuring out your gender identity. So those helped me figure out how to work with the population for wherever they are.
And then how interesting, though, that you, as you're reading them, starting to realize, and I think that that might be one of the biggest fears of the folks who are so opposed to the community, especially transgender, non-binary, gender diverse, gender expansive, folks.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest fear is they may find themselves somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And so, I get that, but what I don't get is why people have to be mean.
Well, I don't get that either. I really don't get that.
Like,
either.
even prior to my coming out as trans, I was never rude or mean to other trans people I had met along the way. Like, I had yet to hear a story that I could connect to or identify with. And I had a lot of things that I kind of had to work through, around being Indigenous, what was stripped from me and my culture and tradition. But as I started to learn about that, I found myself, and it helped me kind of say, like, you know what? I am a queer two-spirit trans masculine person. And those are all things that are very important to who I am as a human and my identity. And all of those things mean something valuable to me. Mm-hmm. And so it's so wild to me when people get so caught up in whether or not my body parts match those things. Absolutely. And it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And I mean, but let's remember that colonization played a really big part in all of this, right?
Well, snap on.
Yeah.
Thank you for being the one to say that. I'm normally the one who says it all the time. So thank you. Keep going.
Yes. So they the colonizers did a very, very good job, unfortunately, of training us that there's only two genders. Everybody needs to conform to certain behaviors and religious beliefs and all of these things. It is driven into every aspect of American society.
Yeah.
And people resist change, right?
Yeah.
And so I think some of that resistance is coming from, well, this is how I've been trained my whole life. It must be the right way. And I don't want to learn new information or change in any way. And which is silly, because we are human beings who should be continually changing and growing and bettering ourselves and understanding ourselves better. And to the religious folks, sometimes I think, if you believe in God created people so diverse,
yeah,
with so many differences. Why wouldn't gender be the same?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't our sexual orientation be the same? We're all unique. However or whyever we're here, like, there's room for all of our identities.
Yeah, exactly. So you're familiar with, I'm assuming, the WPATH standards of care as well.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Yes.
And so can you, for the folks who are listening, share a little bit about why that's important to the community to have those? And it's the World Professional Association of Transgender Health.
Yes.
And there's, within the community, there's some good things. There's some things that can be kind of difficult when it comes to that because of the pathologization that happens.
Sure.
Or the pathologizing that happens. I think I just made up that last word.
It's a good
but
word.
We'll
go with it.
We'll go with it. We'll keep it for now.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, I'm a huge proponent of mental health care. Mm-hmm. I am a huge proponent. I mean, our brains are part of our body. And when we
Absolutely.
start to feel
Yes.
like something's off,
Mhm.
I think it's so important to go and get that care. And we need to reduce the stigma around that as well. Because
Absolutely.
mental health and well-being is so important.
Yes. I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. But yes, I am a member of WPATH. I adhere to the WPATH standards of care. They are right now on the edge of coming out with a new version 8 of the standards of care. So right now we're working off of version 7, which is a little outdated. And yeah, it has a little bit of pathologization. I can't say the word. So
Pathologizing.
yes,
Okay.
that down through its history. But as we are all evolving, so is WPATH. And I think there's a lot of really good that comes out of WPATH, and I appreciate the standards of care. So the standards of care is a 167-page document about how all medical, mental health, and other kind of professionals should help trans and gender diverse people kind of do their transitions.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's sections for what do mental health therapists, what are your requirements? What do you do with adults and adolescents and children? What are you're supposed to write? If you choose to write letters, which you should, then what do those letters look like?
Yeah.
How to refer on, and for doctors, it has it all written out exactly what to do, so that we're just not all willy-nilly going, okay, let's do this or that or whatever. Like it's a very detailed document about about how to treat trans folks, and I
Yeah.
think it's vital.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other piece of this is what I always tell people, it's like the WPATH standards of care, the DSM-5, which I think now is also being updated.
Yep.
And so there's a new version coming out of that. Like understanding those things beyond just saying, hey, if you go to a therapist, you're sick in the head.
Right.
Like that to me is so disgusting, because the access to care is what the DSM-5 provides, is what WPATH standards of care provides. I pay for insurance just like everybody else does,
Right.
through my work.
Mhm.
I should be able to have access to care as well, and have
Absolutely.
that care be covered on my plan.
Right.
And that's what so many people don't understand about those manuals and about that mental health care and how that works and fits into the picture. What would you say to those folks who just say, you shouldn't be performing those surgeries on those kids?
Well, first I would say kids don't get surgery, so there's that. Kids also don't get hormones, so not even hormones.
Yeah.
Hormones don't come into the picture until adolescents are starting puberty or have been through some puberty. So I think there's a lot of fear mongering and just a lot of misinformation. We're not just like chopping kids up.
Yeah.
That's just silly. Again, the standards of care give us the process that we should go through to get people ready to do things like surgeries or hormones. And so that's basically what I would say. I would love to educate the general society. I don't think they want to listen. Maybe not the general society, but there's a lot of them that do that fear mongering that don't really want to listen. They just want to spout their lies.
Yes. I haven't been watching the chat. Nope. No questions yet. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think you were exactly right. I mean, I went through a training once where they talked about there's 20% of people who are like adamantly opposed and they are unmovable.
Mm-hmm.
There's 20% of people who are with you, 100% with you, will actually even tell you when you're doing it wrong, right? And then there's that group in the middle, that 60% in the middle that are movable. Mm-hmm. And those are the folks that I hope, somehow get a hold of a podcast or listen to one of my podcasts and hear from professionals like yourself, but also hear from lived experience.
Yes, please. Yes.
And so that's the other piece of it, is like everyday people. Like you were so generous in sharing about yourself and how you arrived at describing yourself and sharing your own gender journey. And I think that if we started celebrating our own gender journeys and stopped putting ourselves in boxes, I mean, come on, glasses are just glasses. This is just a finger. It's
Yeah.
not a man finger because it
Right.
happens to be on my body.
Right.
It's not like your nose is a woman nose. It's like, I really feel like, yes, I think that folks that identify on the binary are absolutely 1000% valid. Sophia actually was talking earlier today and saying, look, I am a woman
Mhm.
and I am doing the things that align my body to that.
Yes. Yes.
And
That's beautiful.
there is no reason why people shouldn't be allowed that kind of access.
Mhm.
So let me ask this question, because I know I talk a lot, so I'm gonna let you talk some more,
Ah.
and you listen well. So thanks for
So
that.
keep talking.
So keep talking. Now, what would you say? Here, I'm gonna read the actual exact question. What do you wish was different about the way that others see our community?
I wish that they did not see the community as I think a lot of times they see the community as just pushy and um, like shoving themselves down people's throats. I don't I don't think that's how the community is. But so I would like the general public to be just more willing to be open-minded and like actually listen instead of expecting people to just go along with what they believe.
Yeah, and this is what I find really, it's almost like it's just a projection. Like them saying that we're being pushy.
Right.
Like I always laugh because I go, last time I checked, you're the one who showed up in my inbox to try to tell me how I'm violating God's principles and shoving your religion down my throat.
Right.
I didn't show up in your inbox.
Yeah.
Right. And even out in the world, in the community, it's not like I walk up to people and go, hey, I want to talk to you about who I am and you need to honor and affirm me and da 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 da. Now, I might correct someone if they misgender me, because
Seems
the
fair.
pronoun that honors me the most is he. I'm good with a they, them. I'm totally fine with that because I am two spirit.
Yep.
I think that had I been able to have my culture and tradition from a young age, I might have been okay with both. She, he, all three, they, all of them.
Right.
Because I do feel that intrinsically, I am more than just one thing. I also am grateful because I was born assigned female and I was able to work through emotions and have emotions. But it's such a fine, there's a double-edged sword involved there too, though, because I'm an emotional guy. And so, like, prior to coming out as trans, I was, people would tell me that I was hysterical.
Oh, that's fun.
And in so many different situations, it was like inappropriate for me to act a certain way. Right. And then after coming out as trans, I was told to man up.
You can't win.
No.
That's not fair.
Right.
So they need to stop.
I'm sorry. I'm an emotional guy. It is just who I am. There's nothing wrong with that.
Not at
I
all.
wish more men would be
Yes.
emotional.
Yes.
Because I think the world would start to shift a little bit if they actually allowed themselves to be whole beings.
Sure. And I mean, a lot of that is socialization, and some of it is testosterone, right? Testosterone kind of dampens the emotions for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But the socialization comes in and just like smacks people and says you can't have any emotions unless it's anger. Anger's okay for men. Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it's like, and I've seen this, I have nephews and watching them grow up. I have a couple of nephews that are very in touch with their feelings and emotional. And, like one nephew was teased and picked on for having his emotions.
Right.
And like a couple of guys did some really hurtful things to him. That's the toxic masculinity.
Oh, yes.
And I totally get that. I mean, I know the experience now of being on testosterone and how that switched up my emotions. Like, on T, I will get emotional and I'll start to feel myself want to cry, but I can rein it in quicker. Right. Whereas off of T, I don't have as much control. Yeah. And it's not a bad thing though. Like either way, it's not a bad thing.
Sure. You just got to learn how to work with it.
Yeah.
Either way, you have emotions. How are we going to express them? How are we going to acknowledge them? And allow them to exist without judgment, preferably. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a
right
whole
there.
process.
On the
That's why you
nose.
come talk to me. when we're
On
done
the
now.
nose. That's why you stepped in the trailer today. So we have a few minutes left here, so I'm going to ask a couple more questions. So as you have been evolving within your own gender journey and identifying yourself along this spectrum, are you out to family members?
I have 4 children, and I'm out to all of them.
Okay.
And as I did that process, it was just in the past year, and all of them are totally accepting. They're like, yeah, we figured, that, I mean, who am I fooling? I'm not out to my parents because they're very conservative, and I just don't want to have that conversation with them at this point.
Yeah.
I don't see that it would put value into our relationship. I don't see them a whole lot. We don't spend much time together. So that's where I'm at with that right now.
And you know what? That's another thing that I think is really difficult for people to understand. Like, no matter how old you are, it's not like you have to be out to family.
Yeah,
absolutely. It just is what it is.
I mean, yeah, you can assess each family member for themselves, assess who communicates with each other, and that's a lot of what I do with clients, is help them figure out who are we going to come out to first, who are we not coming out to at all, or what's this process look like. It can take your whole lifetime. You can do it quickly, straight on Facebook. Everybody knows all at once. Like, there's no right process for coming out or the right people to come out to. It's very individualized.
Absolutely. Well, that was a beautiful statement to make right there.
Thank you.
So let's see here. I'm going to look through my list of questions. I think I know. What brings you joy?
What brings me? I get joy. Part of my practice and part of my work with myself is to find joy in small things. The sunshine really brings me joy. I know it's hot today, but I am just basking. And I know snow for some people brings joy, but that is not my experience. So the sunshine brings me joy. Connection with other people definitely brings me joy. Seeing somebody be able to clarify who they are in whatever aspect that is, or understand like what is going on with them and their mental health or their bodies in general, and them taking steps towards just being a better version of themselves or being more at peace with themselves. That is amazing. That brings me so much joy.
Well, that is beautiful. I think that's a great way for us to end this episode, to end the podcast. I lost my song here again. But Dawn, thank you so much. Is there anything that you would like to share that I haven't asked about that you wish I would have asked about as we get ready to close out?
The only other thing I can even think about, which I don't know if I wished you would have asked about, but I just know that we are still short on mental health therapists and medical doctors in the Tri-City area there's a lot that are like, okay, they're like, well, I'm not going to totally discriminate against you, which is a step.
Yeah.
But it'd be great if we had more affirming therapists and medical doctors. It would be great if they really did a lot of training and really knew what they were doing. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So we're still on that journey, still looking for people.
So tell me, I mean, now that kind of spawned a new question.
Okay.
Since you started providing open and affirming care to the community since 2014, have you seen the numbers go up in the number of people looking for open and affirming therapists when it comes to being transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming?
Yes,
or
absolutely.
Gender diverse?
Yes. I get a lot of calls, and the only people I take now are gender diverse people. And my schedule is full 2 months out. Like, there's plenty of work. If there's other therapists that want to make this their focus, I would that would be fantastic. Please get a hold of me.
Yeah. All right. Dawn Darling, go look up Dawn. I know you said you were in in the listings for psychology.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not anymore. I closed that down.
Okay. So where can they find you, Dawn?
You can find me online at Sunrise Therapy Services. You'll find or Dawn Darling. You can Google search either one and you'll find me.
And you are but you are out of
Kearney.
Kearney. Okay. Awesome. Well, Dawn, thank you so much. Appreciate you jumping in the trailer today. You didn't sign up for an interview, but you really did give us a lot of great information.
Thank you so much.
And
Eli.
just totally appreciate you. Also, thank you so much for being a supporter. I'm going to get all emotional about that. But again, this is it. This is our final interview here at Hastings Pride today. We went a little overtime. As a matter of fact, it looks like the park is almost cleaned out. The party has ended. This party is almost over as well. But again, I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful for supporters like you, Dawn, who are out there on our Patreon page. And you can go there now, patreon.com/speakingofhappy. If you have enjoyed anything that you've heard today, you can become a supporter for as little as $1. So just really appreciate that. Also want to, again, thank Heartland Pride in Omaha for their amazing support of this project. I want to thank Katara Brown and Tyler for being here with me today and putting up with my super anxiety and stress as we were setting up, because it was not easy. Ugh. And my music has ended, so I am going to end this too. Thank you all so much for tuning in. All right, we are still live over here. And for those of you who are watching on Facebook and on our YouTube channel and all of those other places, thank you again for tuning in. I know we had some viewers earlier, but it is a Saturday and it's beautiful, so people are probably outside, Dawn, enjoying the sun like you like to enjoy the sun.
Absolutely.
All right, so thank you. We're gonna end everything down, pack up, and head on back to Omaha, Nebraska. So thank you. Bye.